What's up, gang? Tim Newbold here, Director of Strategy with Skillfire. Today, I've got a really awesome topic to share with you. I get this question all the time from teams who are working with OKR. So, the question is, when should you change an OKR mid-cycle? When does it make sense? I'm going to give you 3 scenarios today on when you should change it and what you should do about it when you do change it. Let's get started. Scenario number 1. This is where you're early in your OKR cycle. So you've set your OKR, you're still going to be within 2 weeks of starting the quarter, and your other teams are going to be checking out your OKR, you're going to be aligning. What you're going to find during this time is the other teams might have some feedback or they might be asking you for help. Now, if that's the case, this is perfectly fine and normal to be changing your OKRs during this time. You're going to be repivoting and retilting your goals, and that's totally okay. The next one to think about then is, what about if we're a little bit further down the track? Because if it's at the start, that makes sense. It's okay to change. If you're a little bit further down the track, that can be a bit trickier. So the second scenario where you might want to think about changing your OKR is, let's say you've set a goal and you've had a realization that the objective you're trying to achieve is no longer relevant. It doesn't matter. So for example, maybe you're an e-commerce store and you had an OKR about optimizing your checkout flow. Let's say through your research, you've had a sudden realization where you go, actually, the benefit isn't there. The problem that we actually have got after some investigation is that we have an issue in possibly the add to cart function. You know, when you're looking at the products, people are having trouble adding to cart. So you've realized that needs to be a focus area rather than the checkout. Now, of course, you could blindly go with the checkout one and just say, well, we committed to this at the start, let's keep going with it. That, my friends, is insanity. Again, OKR is about creating radical impacts, focus, and driving outcomes. And if that outcome isn't the right outcome, change it. So if you're midway through the cycle, this is the time where I do a quick grab the team, get them together, talk about what do we think that new goal should be, tweak and adjust it, and you've got to let other teams know because they're going to have the expectation that you're going to be still working on improving the checkout flow. And if there's some issues with that, you're going to have to coordinate with other teams. But again, that makes sense. If you need to change your objective because the outcome you're trying to achieve, or your key results as well, because the outcome you're trying to achieve has changed or is no longer really all that relevant, then that is a good time to change. The third and final scenario where you're going to be thinking about changing your OKR mid-cycle, and to be honest, this is going to happen more to your key results than it is going to happen to the overall objective and key result, is where you realize you've got one of the wrong measures. So one of the key results cannot actually be measured. It might be a metric that is made up. Maybe there's no report to access it and you won't be able to get a report to access it. So let's say you have an e-commerce store and you've realized that you've forgotten to put analytics on your platform. Pretty unlikely, but I have heard of similar things happening in the past. So let's say you've gone to say, well, I want to speed up the time it takes for a customer to go through the checkout. If you then go to bust out the report and realize the data is not there, and if for you, it's going to take a long time to make that change. Again, analytics would normally be pretty quick, but let's just assume it would take a long time. Then you're going to want to change your key result for something better, right? Something you can actually use. And that's going to vary based on your situation. So quite often you might look at a key result and just realize it's not a very good one for this case, or maybe the report's inaccurate, but there's another data point that you want to use. And so changing that's totally okay. Now, we've got to think a little bit about when is the right time to change it as well. Because obviously, as we said, in the first couple of weeks, you can kind of change anything, right? As you get new insights, it doesn't really matter. You probably still want to let people know, but it's nothing too formal. As you go through the quarter, you want to actually tell people, hey, other teams, we're making these changes just as an FYI. And that's why it's so important OKRs are public as well. Now, when we think about getting late in the quarter, let's say you've got a few weeks to go and you've realized that your metrics are no good. Look, it's pretty disappointing to hit that position so late, but it can happen. What I'd normally suggest you do is at that point, pull the team together, have a conversation about whether it's a good idea to come up with a new OKR to hammer out the rest of the cycle, or do we just try and come up with the intent we're trying to achieve and have a better crack at it next time? The ultimate idea is that, you don't need to be getting this perfectly right, and it's all part of a learning exercise. The fact that you've gone through a quarter with the wrong key result, you've picked up at the end that you probably need to change it and you don't really know which one to change it to. These are all lessons to take forward. It's nothing to be ashamed of. It's nothing bad. It just means you don't have that capability baked in yet, where you know exactly what are your goals, where do they fit into the picture, and how do we actually measure the success of those goals. So that's totally okay. So at that point, be happy with what you've got and run ahead. Now, OKR can be a really crazy and interesting idea for a lot of people, and there's a lot to it. So that's why we created the free online OKR course, which is all about introducing OKR. It's basically OKR for teams, the fundamentals to get you rolling and embedding OKR with your team, from facilitation to theory to templates and how you're going to make it work. We even have a free Miro template that you can take and use and have a bit of fun with. I'm going to include a link to that course in the comments. I'd love for you to check it out. We also have a whole bunch of other resources as well that you might want to have a look at. Now, we're still super early in this YouTube era, and as you can probably tell by a bit of the funky lighting that's going on, we haven't nailed it. So I would really love and appreciate having a bit of feedback from you around what's working on this video, what's not working, what would you like to see changed. Maybe it's the look and feel of it, maybe it's the content. Please shout out. And if you have any general OKR questions, please do hit us up. You can also find us on skillfire.com.au and ask us questions at anytime. We're really passionate about this, and we're always more than happy to help and share any sort of ideas. You can also find us on LinkedIn and all the usual socials. And a recent one has been Clubhouse, so watch that space. We might be coming out with a bit more content as well. Anyhow, have a wonderful day. Thank you so much for your time watching this video, and please do give us some feedback. And if you enjoyed it, give us a like, hit subscribe. Talk soon. Peace out.